Coach Burnett, what's going on?
Nothing, man. We're just at the state tournament.
OAC action.
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
This event's nails. Especially coming from some other state events, and then to Ohio and seeing some matches that I would think were like frontside semifinals, but it's second round wrestlebacks. Talk about the depth at the junior high event.
Yeah, so our state is really coming around. Kids are really good at an earlier age, and then these guys, they're junior high right now, so they're right on the cusp of high school. You know what I mean? So a lot of them, the ones that are at that elite level, they've been wrestling for a long time. So they're just sharp and they're tough, and it trickles down. So our depth is pretty good too. So these kids they're ready to make an impact now and then give themselves momentum into spring and summer and then into their freshman year of high school.
Nice. So I was out walking around the concourse and there's a monitor showing like brackets from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just unbelievable.
Sure.
Like 3-time All-American got 6th place.
Yeah, right.
And so I know it's hard to like think about because now you look at it like you can actually have like quantifiable credentials that they have, but are this group coming through right now? Do you think they're on track to be as successful as those earlier years?
Yeah, I think so. I think you look back at some of those years, and there were some monsters in there, some elite guys. I absolutely think that this wave, this generation of kids, these classes, you would say, definitely have the talent, the ability to. If they're improving as they go along and they get a little better and they have a really good attitude and they have coaches and parents that keep them grounded, structured in the right way, I mean, sky's the limit for some of these kids, much like those kids from the past.
Yeah, and so like I said, some guys were 5th, 6th, 7th that became superstars. How does a kid that's middle, lower of the pack then able to become an All-American? What needs to happen for that kid? Besides, he's got to win matches, but how is that kind of growth possible?
I tell you what. So I don't really know. You know what I mean? I just know all I can really relate to personally is the kids that I've been able to be around, blessed to be around and coach. With my brother, and then our assistant coaches and the people that help us, the guys that are from consistent backgrounds, that have consistent families, healthy families, of course, a structured, disciplined lifestyle where they're forced to adapt, on the fly. Families that nurture them and understand the journey, from start to finish. I would tell a kid that's a middle of the road kid right now to have patience and understand that, you don't have to be elite right now to have elite results down the road. But, you got to have consistency, you got to have good habits. I think it's cliche as coaches, we talk about lifestyle and things like that, but it truly matters to have such a good balance in your overall life that when these dudes get older, they're healthy, their habits carry over, and then it kind of gives them a foundation to succeed later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So just a second ago we were talking, and you're talking about some of your guys that are feeling this tournament. They're still alive, but they're kind of going through the struggle. How do you benefit? What does this struggle provide for the wrestler?
It teaches them. It's a teachable moment. The kids get to feel a state tournament environment. They get to wrestle in an arena with lights. There's structure to the tournament. It has that feel of it being a big deal, which it is. It is at this point in their life. Junior high, they want to try to win a junior high state championship and be on the podium, right? So there's that sense of accomplishment that they're working towards, but then you also have to be able to ground them somewhat and say, hey, you still have next year. If you're a 7th grader, if you're a 6th grader, you got 2 years. If you're 8th grade, you're going to move on to high school, and if you do the little things right, if you listen to your coaches, the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to, I sometimes struggle with being able to balance that, like teach them that, yeah, it is important. We use this as a gauge, and you strive for it, and you shoot for it, and you use every day to practice for this tournament in this moment. But it ultimately, in the grand scheme of it, how important is it? I don't really know. You know what I mean? Sometimes it can be made bigger than what it really is. But I think, like I said earlier, if kids and families are healthy with that process, it'll usually always work out in the end, one way or the other.
So last year, I believe we talked about the father/coach, and then also development as a coach. So in the last year, since I talked to you, where have you grown, and or what's something that you learned in your coaching?
So, something I could say personally for me, I've learned a little bit about my son's emotions. He's 10 years old, and you think because you live with them and they're always around you that you might have a really good understanding about your son. Well, I've learned that that's not always the case. You know what I mean? And I'm always learning about his emotional state, how he feels. I've learned that he's actually his biggest critic. You know what I mean? He's very, very. Not that he's a perfectionist, but he really loves wrestling, and he carries a standard that sometimes I don't understand. It's easy for me to be a critical dad coach, and then while we're working and maybe talking about something, he's already bummed out that maybe he feels like he didn't do his best, or maybe even worse, he feels like I'm bummed out. So I've learned a lot about that, you know what I mean, coming from that, maybe that perspective. Programmatically, I've learned a lot about building a program. It's my second year being head coach. We had a really good year this year with our high school team, our junior high, our program in general. Our biddy is doing well. Our junior high had a great year, and our high school had a breakthrough year. We finished top 10, and but building a program from top to bottom is really, really hard. There's a lot of work that's involved. You got to have some luck. You got to have kids that believe in you, families that believe in you, because it's ultimately going to be hard. You know what I mean? To get really good at something, you got to persevere, and you got to have consistency, and you have to sacrifice. So it's going to be really, really hard. But I looking back on this year, it's really, really cool because we have some buy-in. You know what I mean? Like there's more buy-in than not right now, and that's really, really good. That's promising.
So yeah, it's kind of like you have this this newer program that is developing, and then Burnett trained, which is a lot. It's a little bit different spot.
Been established.
Is it fun? Is the building stage? Is it like something that you're enjoying, or is it more like?
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's fun. It's cool. For me, but it's hard sometimes, because when you're a coach, sometimes my style, I'm always trying to look at where we can improve, and sometimes for me, I have a tendency to be kind of a curmudgeon and focus on that negative stuff. When there's a whole bunch of positive stuff that's happening or did happen, it's real easy to maybe focus on, for example, we had two guys that came up short of placing at state. So it was easy for me at points to be focusing and tunneling it on why that happened and that, rather than the stuff that they did well throughout the process of getting there and even at the tournament, and then what the other guys did and what we're doing as a team, right? You know what I mean? So, for me, I have to really focus on trying to really focus on the positive things that are happening all the time.
Gotcha. All right, so really quick, back to the dad coach thing, and I understand like every kid's different, and I'm sure that there's a different path for each one, but if you were to suggest to me, like, assuming my son wants to wrestle, like a route like, hey, this is, you train and then you compete at this age and you do gymnastics, like what would be the plan that you would suggest the course that I take my son on?
So I tell you what, my son Gray did a little bit of the tumbling. That's big. I think that's a really good, when I look at kids, the ones that can wrestle, that are really well-rounded, they're explosive, they're flexible, they're athletic, they have a good understanding of wrestling. So I would probably definitely do some kind of tumbling, stuff like that, to build dexterity and awareness. And then, you kind of you read your son, and bring him around. I brought my son around it a lot. I would coach practices and clinics and camps. And I brought Gray around. He had a little backpack full of cars and toys, and he played, and then he would imitate, and then we mess around. And then when I kind of saw that he was really, really liking it, I got him some shoes, and I was blessed to have people that like kind of grabbed him and paired him up with other little kids. And then they just they started out the process, and then he naturally kind of gravitated to wrestling, you know? So, you know, one thing I would suggest too, though, is be structured with them, but don't rush it. You know what I mean? I think sometimes for me and parents nowadays, it's easy to rush them into it and get them wrestling and wrestling tournaments. And, you know, if you want, take them to tournaments, but don't put a premium on necessarily the results that they're getting, you know? Like, you know, make it fun. If they win, awesome. If they lose, it is what it is. You enjoy the time, because, I mean, you know, everybody says it, but it really goes by fast. You know, my son's 10 years old, and he's been wrestling for a long time now. You know what I mean? So, and he's had some success. We've got to do some things, but he's not a little baby anymore. He's not my little buddy. You know what I mean? I mean, he's still my buddy, but he's not the little plump, square-headed, chubby dude that I remember. You know what I mean? So it goes fast. Enjoy it. You know, try to just you know, go one day at a time. You know what I mean? One practice at a time.
Awesome. Always great to catch up with you.
Yeah, man. Same here.
Thanks for doing what you do. You got anything else to share right now?
No, man. Keep doing what you do, brother. It's awesome to see you, man.
Thanks.